welcome to the AgeWise Colorado webinar on mental health resources for you, where you're going to be learning about resources to promote the mental health of our community of individuals and the technologies and services available in our community. My name is Bob Brocker. I am the founder and board president of AgeWise Colorado, and Barbara Boyer is our executive director, and she'll say hello. And what I'm going to do next here is launch into just a very short PowerPoint presentation. And I'll also be introducing a very brief introduction to our two panelists today, and then a little longer one when we get started with them speaking. So that's kind of the order of business. And so our panelists today are Amy Miller, who's a licensed clinical social worker and director of adult outpatient services at Jefferson Center for Mental Health. And our next presenter will be Annika Papke. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
It's Annika Papke.
Papke, sorry. Annika Papke, who is the owner of Hope for Tomorrow Counseling Service. So a little bit about AgeWise Colorado. So we launched our service in the summer of 2021. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we're focused on becoming the premier nonprofit information and vetted service provider hub for aging Coloradans and all current and future caregivers. And our focus, the reason for that focus is that our population here in Colorado is aging very quickly. As you can see on this slide, the 60 and over population actually crossed right here. We crossed the 0 to 17 population last year. And now the 60 and over is accelerating. These under 18 is actually declining. And then the 45 to 59 age group is starting to pick up some steam as well. So for the next several decades, we're looking at our population getting older faster here in the state of Colorado. We are also known as the second fastest aging state in the country, and that is because of all the dark purple counties here on this map that show a 60% or greater increase in the 65 plus population during the last census. We serve aging Coloradans, and we serve the caregivers and adult children of aging Coloradans, employers by providing support for current and future caregiving employees with our vetted service providers and great information, our vetted service providers, and organizations committed to healthy aging Coloradans. This is the front of a postcard that we use to hand out to folks when we meet them for the first time. This shows the two demographics that we really aim at, the first being in this sandwich generation, which many of you seeing this today are a part of. And that's roughly the age between the ages of 40 and 60. And then we have the 60 plus population. So between the two of those age groups, there are almost 3 million people here in the state of Colorado, which is nearly 3/5 of our entire population. So it's a lot of people. This is a screenshot from our website that shows the categories of services that we have. And as you can see, they're widely varied. And when you're on our website, if you click on any of these boxes, you'll get a drop down with some subcategories of services and that you can zero in on by service area and by type. This is our schedule of webinars that are coming up. As the one we're on today, obviously. And then in a couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about government benefits that are available for folks, many of which are not only hard to find, but even hard to know about. So we'll be talking about those. And then, as you can see, some of the rest of these that are coming up. And now I'm going to introduce Amy Miller. Amy has a broad range of experience in the fields of mental health and aging. In her current role as Director of Adult Outpatient Services, Amy provides programmatic oversight of adult outpatient services, senior services, mountain services, bilingual services, and vocational services at Jefferson Center. During her time at Jefferson Center, she has also developed a new program to provide individual and group therapy to individuals with hoarding disorder and has assisted sites in other states in implementing their senior reach model in their communities. Amy holds a BA degree in psychology from the University of South Dakota and a master's of social work from the University of Denver, and is a certified mental health first aid instructor. So, Amy, we'd love to hear more about what you do and how you do it. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right. Well, I will share my screen here. Thank you so much for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to be talking about senior services, well, really all of the services we offer at Jefferson Center, and then those specifically for older adults as well. I will tell you a little bit more about Jefferson Center. We are the community mental health center. We primarily serve people living in Jefferson, Clear Creek, and Gilpin counties. So kind of the Jeffco area of Denver Metro up into the foothills and mountains in Clear Creek and Gilpin County. But with the expansion of telehealth, we've started serving more and more clients outside of that catchment as well. And so, we really consider ourselves a service provider for a broad range of Coloradans, and are happy to be here as a community resource, even beyond our three primary counties that we serve. We serve all age ranges from, early childhood and family services to our older adult services at Jefferson Center. We also have specialty services for veteran and military family services, LGBTQ plus individuals. We have a staff of about 700 people and a lot of clinical staff with a lot of great specialty expertise. So we are always striving to better serve our community. And we do that through a variety of services as well, different forms of therapy, individual talk therapy, group therapy, family therapy is an option as well. We have wonderful peer specialists that can work alongside clients. A peer specialist is someone who has their own lived experience with a mental health condition and has gotten to a good place with their recovery. And so they can work with an individual who's receiving services here at Jefferson Center and kind of be their support, kind of talk about what it was like from their perspective, the things they learned, the things that were helpful for them. And it's just a great way for our clients to connect with someone who really understands what it's like to, have those tough conversations and reach out and ask for help and can really support them as a peer. We also do quite a bit with wellness services. I'll talk a little bit more later on in the PowerPoint here, but there is certainly a relationship between mental health and physical health. And if one is struggling, it's likely that the other is having struggles as well. If folks have a chronic health condition, they're more likely to develop a mental health condition and vice versa. And so we really want to promote wellness in all areas of a person's life, mental and physical wellness as well. We do a lot of prevention and education and outreach in the community. We've got great parenting classes and resources. We offer services in schools and primary care offices so that, students can, quickly go to their therapist, do their therapy session, and then be right and back in school without a parent having to come pick them up, drive them to a therapist, and then drive them back. They miss less of their school day and they're able to get services right on site with someone who's really integrated with part of the school team. And then we also offer a lot of substance use treatment options as well, residential treatment, outpatient treatment, intensive outpatient treatment. So that is really part of the spectrum. When we say behavioral health, we really mean mental health and substance use. And we offer the broad spectrum here at Jefferson Center. In terms of services available specifically to older adults, it's really everything we offer at Jefferson Center, but it's offered by providers who specialize in working with older adults, who understand what different mental health conditions look like for an older adult and what other issues might be going on that impacts their well-being. So things like physical limitations or having a lack of social support. Social isolation is really common for older adults. So our therapists really have, that expertise and understanding of all of the issues that come along with aging, and really have that lens to work with our clients in a really effective way. So it's the same offering of services, individual and group therapy, medication services. We do offer psychological testing. So if someone is concerned that perhaps they're developing dementia, we have trained psychologists who can help assess for that as well. Case management, where we can get folks connected to things like housing resources or food and nutrition resources. If someone is having trouble getting enough to eat, our care managers can help connect them to different resources out in the community, things like transportation, any sort of wide variety of different social needs we can help address as well. Our clinicians do different education and community outreach events. We do different events. We have one coming up on April 29th for caregivers. That'll be in Lakewood. We've partnered with different community agencies around Jeffco, Clear Creek, and Gilpin to do different outreach events so that folks know that we're here and they can come to us if they have questions or need a little extra support. We also have crisis services at Jefferson Center. So there's a crisis number I will show toward the end of the PowerPoint. Folks can call 24 hours a day. The average response time is about 6 seconds. And you don't have to be in crisis to use it. If you're ever feeling down, need someone to talk to, it is free, it is no charge, and you can call and immediately get connected to a counselor who can talk you through it. You can call for yourself. You can call if you're concerned about a friend or a family member. We also have a walk-in center. Ours here in Jeffco is just south of I-70 on Wadsworth, and I have the address on that slide toward the end as well. But 24/7 services meant to be on demand whenever you need them so that you can quickly get connected to support. And we also offer all of these services in Spanish as well. We have a great Spanish speaking team, Centro Dones, and they're a great team of clinicians who are also able to work with our older adult population and our general population as well. In terms of individual therapy, there are some specialized interventions that our team is trained to use. So certainly for folks who've experienced trauma is incredibly common, especially for older adults. The longer you live, the more likely it is that you will have experienced some sort of traumatic event. So our clinicians are trained in a variety of trauma interventions. In 2020, we started offering services for folks with hoarding disorder. So we have individual and group treatment options that has been really well received by the community, really well attended. That is definitely a service that we've opened up beyond just Jefferson, Clear Creek, and Gilpin, because we know there's such a need for that within the Denver metro area. But certainly things like grief and loss, chronic health issues, chronic pain, all great specialties that we have in terms of the expertise with our clinicians. I do always like to talk about Senior Reach. Senior Reach is a fantastic program. We have a lot of research demonstrating the outcomes of Senior Reach. But this is really a program where anyone can make a referral on behalf of an older adult that they're concerned about. So ideally, we would like you to have a conversation with that older adult to say, hey, I've noticed you seem really down lately. Is everything okay? Start a conversation, talk to them a little bit about what's been going on, and then offer up, hey, I heard about this great program, Senior Reach. I'm wondering, would it be all right if I had them give you a call? And we will reach out to that older adult, talk a little bit about our services, and we have something like a 90+% acceptance rate. So even when people aren't referred directly, when we outreach and explain what we have to offer, people are very welcome and welcoming of the services. But it is always helpful if you can have that conversation and give them a heads up that we're available and we would be reaching out. But it's really meant to be a low barrier way for older adults to get connected to therapy services. So we can go out to the person's home. If they're not comfortable coming into the office, we will go to them. We will make it as easy as possible. So we can go out to the home. We've been doing a lot of telehealth during COVID. A lot of our clients have really enjoyed telehealth. It works well for them. They don't, have to spend a lot of energy getting up, getting dressed, getting the house clean, or whatever else for, getting ready for their therapist to arrive. So we can do telehealth if someone prefers that as well. It is a short-term program, so it's really meant for some of those more mild to moderate concerns, moderate depression, moderate anxiety, grief and loss, kind of adjusting to a big life change. And then if someone needs more ongoing services, we typically get them connected to our outpatient program where they can work with their therapist for a longer period of time. But this is a fantastic program. We also offer, referrals to community resources, care management to get people connected to services. And we get a lot of funding from our local area agency on aging, so we can usually offer those services at no cost within our catchment area. So this program serves Clear Creek, Gilpin, Jeffco, Boulder, and Broomfield. But if you're outside of our catchment, we have a great list of providers that we can refer you to and help you get connected to someone that's a fit for your location and what you're needing in terms of services. So I have that number there at the bottom of the screen, 866-217-5808. You can always call to get more information or make a referral. In terms of the different groups, again, the wellness classes we have low-cost, accessible yoga classes. We have writing for anxiety. We have mindfulness classes. These are available to anyone in the community. You don't have to be connected to Jefferson Center, so you can come take a low-cost yoga class. Yoga classes can get really expensive, and ours is $5. So come on down. We would love to have you. And then there's some really fantastic workshops and different skills groups as well that we offer. Different groups we offer. One thing that's really neat is we have a partnership with Jefferson County Public Libraries where we do a call-in meditation every Thursday morning. So every Thursday morning at 10 a.m. you can call that number. You don't have to register ahead of time. You just have to call, and you can just listen in. It's not like heavily, heavy in terms of participation, but you can listen, and one of our therapists will take you through a guided meditation. And so it's just a nice way to kind of incorporate some more mindfulness practices into your daily life. It's no charge. You don't have to register. Just give us a call at 10 a.m. and you are welcome to join in and listen along and follow along with the meditation. Again, our peer counselors, folks with lived experience who can support someone who's engaging in mental health services, really fantastic team of folks we have there. We also offer a lot of community education. Part of being a community mental health center is we want to get out into the community, provide information, education, give skills to hopefully prevent mental health conditions or keep them from getting worse. And so we have a speakers bureau that can customize a presentation on whatever you're looking for. So some I've done is, coping with stress around the holidays, how to recognize the signs of depression, how to cope with change and stress. We've done presentations on bullying. We've seen this a lot in our senior living communities where folks will move from their own home into a senior living complex. And some of those dynamics of gossiping and bullying and cliques definitely happen in senior living as well. So our clinicians can come out and talk about, healthy communication and healthy relationship strategies. Crisis intervention training, we work with law enforcement. We train law enforcement. That crisis intervention training is 40 hours of training that law enforcement officers have to get to be crisis intervention trained. And part of that training includes how to work with older adults, issues common with older adults, how to respond to those needs, how to get them connected to services. And then one of my favorites is mental health first aid for older adults. There's a curriculum specifically for providing support to someone who may be experiencing a mental health concern. So that is a fantastic class. If you haven't taken a mental health first aid class, I would highly encourage it. You can do them online now. We have them in person. I'll show you our website where you can click for more information, but you can keep an eye out for the older adult module as well. And then, like I said, we do a lot of work in our community. There was a little article on our partnership with Jeffco Public Libraries on the call-in meditation, which was really great. But we do try to go out to those different resource fairs, community events, so that people, again, get to know us, get to ask questions, and are able to connect with us and find that support. So if you have an event that you'd like us to be present at, feel free to reach out. We would love to be there with you. Again, some different case management and resource navigation services. So we can help people apply for public benefits. We can help people with housing applications, Medicaid applications, provide information. We are, again, a big organization, and it's hard even to express in this presentation today everything we have to offer. So you can call, and our navigation team will help figure out what program might be the right fit for you. And if we don't offer it, we know typically in the community who does, so we can refer you to those community partners. And they can also offer some brief conflict resolution, couples or families counseling, or some brief clinical services as well. This is the information about Colorado Crisis Services. So again, our walk-in center is open 24 hours a day. That's at 4643 Wadsworth Boulevard, but there are locations all across Colorado. So if you go to the Colorado Crisis Services website, it's in that green box at the bottom there, coloradocrisisservices.org. You can look up the different walk-in centers to see which one is closest to you. You can also use that to chat with a crisis counselor. So if you don't feel comfortable calling and speaking to someone, you can chat, you can text. The blue box has the information for how to text with a crisis counselor. And then that crisis line, if you prefer to talk to someone. And again, you don't have to be in a full-blown crisis, although that is certainly what it is there for as well. But if you're just wanting more information and wanting to connect with someone or get a referral to a local resource, that is a great number to call and get connected with. And then there's lots of different ways to get involved at Jefferson Center. This website here, jcmh.org/get involved. That's where you can look for different options, like different classes we have to offer, events we have coming up. You can sign up for our regular newsletter. There's an option to contribute to our services. But the classes are what I'm most excited about. Again, mental health first aid. We always have mental health first aid classes that you can register for. So those are great to look for. We also offer classes like Question, Persuade, Refer, QPR, which is another suicide prevention training. We do partnerships with the schools where we do a big conference called Helping Kids Thrive. So parents can come, or grandparents who are raising kids can come and learn about different parenting resources and strategies, and a lot of different fun fundraising events too that we do throughout the year. That's a great way to support us and get involved as well. So our website there has more information. Our main number is down below. But the main takeaway is we have a lot to offer, and if we don't offer it, we can connect you to the people who can. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, we're here to serve our community. We are not part of Jefferson County. That is another common confusion. We are our own private nonprofit, and our mission is really to be here to support our community. So don't hesitate to reach out. We would love to chat with you and get you pointed in the right direction.
Thank you very much, Amy. I have a few questions that
Sure.
popped up as you were speaking. So one is, you mentioned the crisis centers. Is that a part of like the 988 crisis line, or?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, 988 was implemented earlier this year. It's essentially the mental health equivalent of 911. And so yes, here in Colorado, if you're calling from a Colorado area code, it will connect you to Colorado Crisis Services, since that is our local crisis number. 988 is working really well. The thing that they're still figuring out is if you're like me and you have your phone number from a previous state, I still have my 605, South Dakota area code, it may direct you to that crisis line at first. So we still are encouraging people to use that local number, especially if you're like me and you don't have a Colorado area code. But 988, in a pinch, that's always a great number to use as well. And it will connect to our system of Colorado Crisis Services.
So how long has the Jefferson Center been around?
We have been around for over 60 years. So we started in the 1960s as part of the the legislation that created the community mental health centers that was meant to deinstitutionalize people from psychiatric facilities and allow them to live and work in the community and receive services in the community. So we have been around a very long time. We started in the basement of the courthouse in Golden, and now we have 6 different offices, actually seven offices that we own. And then, we are out in the schools and primary care offices and different health and wellness centers. We also have telehealth kiosks at different locations where people can zoom in and get more information. So we really have quite a large footprint out in the community.
You certainly do. Obviously, many people have found you, but I suspect more people need to find you. So, given all the services that you provide, you must have a pretty large staff of people. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we have just over 700 staff, and about close to 400 of those staff are clinical staff. So those are psychiatrists and nurse practitioners that can prescribe medication, therapists who can do the individual and group therapy, care managers to get people connected to resources, vocational services specialists who can work with people who are wanting to find employment and work with them on interviewing and creating their resume and doing job coaching, peer specialists who, again, have that lived experience and can support people in that way. Very large staff. We serve, I believe, somewhere between 20 and 30,000 people a year in Jeffco, but we know that number could be much, much higher. So we are, always trying to get the word out and expand our reach for sure.
So if someone outside of your service area were to call in, I mean, you would still help them. Could they make an in-person appointment as well? So let's say it's somebody from Denver County or Douglas County.
Yeah, absolutely. So especially if someone has Medicaid, we'll really serve them no matter where they live in the state. We are a little bit more limited when it comes to like private insurance or Medicare. That's sort of as we have capacity, because those staff are a little bit more limited. But yeah, we do offer in-person services. We are back in person. Every therapist is doing at least 2 days a week in the office. And so we have, we're as far north as 80th and Wadsworth, as far south as Hamden and Wadsworth. We have offices, our office up in Evergreen, and then different locations in Gilpin and Clear Creek County as well. If folks want to come and get those services in person, they're welcome to. And then, with telehealth, we can often go even beyond kind of what people are comfortable driving in for.
So a telehealth visit could be somebody from Durango, for example. I mean, it's possible. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we've had a few people from like the mountains, the Western Slope. So yes.
So how do they find out about you, do you think?
For a lot of those folks, they do have Medicaid. And so their Medicaid provider, it's the regional accountable entity that kind of helps administer their benefits. If, they haven't had luck finding a provider in their area, they may then refer to us to get services. So we typically try to connect people with a provider who's local to their area, because they're going to be the ones who best know the resources, the needs of the community. But for folks that have kind of more of a specialized need or who haven't been able to find that good fit, we can work with them, again, particularly if they have Medicaid.
Another question, you mentioned the hoarding disorder earlier. Are you seeing, what's the trend you're seeing with that particular disorder in particular?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, it's been a bit of an enigma. So hoarding disorder wasn't recognized as its own mental health diagnosis until 2014. And so because of that, the services for it are quite limited, because when it's not a diagnosis, insurance often won't reimburse for those services. And it can often be a very intense diagnosis that takes a long time to show improvement. And so there aren't a lot of providers offering that service. But we do know that hoarding severity peaks in later life. It typically peaks about age 55. And then as some of those physical limitations can enter in later life, it can be that much harder for people to physically handle the removal of clutter and things like that. So that's why that service lives within senior services at Jefferson Center. We have great partnerships with Seniors Resource Center and Clutter Trucker, where Senior Resource Center and Clutter Trucker can help with the actual physical removal of the clutter. And then Jefferson Center will provide them the mental health counseling services so that people kind of learn how to maintain that progress. Because we know people tend to have the most success if they're getting support with cleaning out, but also ongoing counseling to kind of address the underlying reasons that they're accumulating and saving all of those items. So since we've started, we've definitely seen more people reach out to us. We have a great hoarding webinar. Actually, I did that one on our website as well, jcmh.org/webinars. And yeah, it's been really wonderful to see public health, code enforcement, animal control, different organizations reaching out and connecting people, because we all want folks to be successful and to stay in their home. And it's been really, really great to work with all the clients too. It's I got to run a few of those groups and they were just absolutely the best part of my job. I'm a little sad I don't get to do that anymore in my new role. But it's a great group of people who really work together and support each other. And so I'm hoping, we were talking about the stigma earlier of if there's still stigma around reaching out for mental health services. And while that's kind of gone down, there's still a lot of stigma around hoarding disorder. So I'd like to see us do even more of that stigma busting for hoarding specifically.
Well, it's interesting you said that. I watched a movie recently. I can't remember the name of it right now, but Sissy Spacek was in it, and she had the hoarding disorder, and so it was played pretty well, actually, in terms of she tried to hide it, and then finally, she just opened up about it. But that wasn't the main part of the story, but that was a significant part. Another thing you mentioned earlier in our conversation was the pandemic has caused an increase in the number of people seeking services. So when you look at your statistics, what are you seeing in terms of percentage increase from 2019 to today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is research out there showing that the rates of things like anxiety and depression and trauma-related disorders did increase during COVID. I would have to find you the exact article, but definitely there was an increase in mental health concerns during the pandemic, and especially for young people, for youth. For those in the audience who are taking care of young people or care about young people, that's definitely had a significant increase as well. So yeah, it's been noticeable. So not only has the number of people needing services increased, and then we've also seen the number of people willing to reach out and ask for services. That's also increasing. And so it has put a real demand on the behavioral health system. And to be quite honest, there aren't enough clinicians for the need that is out there. So I think that's kind of a long-term strategy we're going to need to take, is how to develop our workforce so that we have enough clinicians to meet the need.
That seems to be an issue in healthcare in general, the staffing issue. So are you seeing turnover due to burnout from some of your staff? Is that happening?
Yeah, certainly I would say 2021, the year of the Great Resignation, we did see a lot of turnover, just like just about every other industry in the country. And yeah, a lot of it was, people needing to step away to take care of their kids who were, remote learning, or who just were burnt out from supporting all of their clients while they were navigating their own stress during the crux of the pandemic. And so 2021 was definitely a rough year. We've been able to fill a lot of those vacancies. We're actually staffed up even higher than we were prior to the pandemic. So that's been fantastic. But that's here at Jefferson Center, in the behavioral health system, there's still a lot of vacancies out there that need to be filled.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the work you're doing. It's I will be the first to confess that I didn't know very much at all about the Jefferson Center. I thought it was associated with Jefferson County. So
A lot of
I'm
people do.
happy to learn that it isn't, and how it works. And do you also refer people to other other county centers that exist in Colorado and vice versa? Is there a lot of that interaction or not?
Yeah, we have a really strong partnership. Our sort of statewide organizing partner is the Colorado Behavioral Healthcare Council, and they're the membership organization for all of the community mental health centers. So we do work very closely with Community Reach and WellPower, and a lot of the different mental health centers, both in Denver Metro and statewide. So again, we've got a good network. So even if we're not the exact right fit for you, we can connect you to the right person based on your location and your need.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, thank you, Amy. Does anybody else have any questions for Amy before we move on to Annika? If not,
I have some questions. I can't get my
Yes.
video to work. I'm sorry. Hi, my name is Kristen. I work with Right at Home in Boulder. We do in-home non-medical care for seniors and people with disabilities. And I often deal with clients that have some mental health issues, but I'm more worried about my caregivers because I think they're less likely to speak up and advocate for themselves. And I don't know how specific you guys are with the industry right now, but do you have any kind of advice on maybe preventative measures to take with my staff or anything like that?
Oh, that's such a great question. I know this is really Annika's wheelhouse, so I'll maybe let her speak to it. But yeah, I think, in terms of those direct service providers, in terms of what Jefferson Center can offer, we do and have done classes on burnout and self-care and, managing expectation and setting boundaries. And so we also have our Centered program, which is a workplace wellness program that offers individual counseling and different wellness classes and workshops as well. So yeah, that is definitely something we offer. I'd love to chat with you more. And I know Annika will speak to this as well too in her section.
Awesome, thank you. Will you guys share your contact information as well?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we had it
it's also on the webinar materials. But yeah, but I would encourage both Amy and Annika to put your contact into the chat too for the people who joined us.
I will do that. I did see there was one question I got messaged privately about what payers we accept. And so we do take Medicaid, we do take self-pay. We do have a sliding scale, reduced fee rate for folks with no insurance, low income, that need that fee reduction service. So we offer that as well. We do accept Medicare and private insurance, but again, our capacity there is a little bit more limited because Medicare and private insurance are much more restrictive in what providers they'll reimburse for versus Medicaid in the state of Colorado. So we just tend to have a little bit more capacity for Medicaid, but as we do have capacity for Medicare and private insurance, we've got a great commercial services team that works with those folks. So definitely give us a call, and we'll do everything we can to get you in.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks again, Amy. Now I'd like to introduce Annika Papke. She is the owner of Hope for Tomorrow Counseling, and she approaches her work in a caring and authentic way. And she'll talk a lot more about this, and strives to connect with clients and help them feel comfortable working through the uncomfortable stuff of their lives. Her approach allows clients to become more aware of their difficult thoughts and feelings and to help them gain a sense of empowerment, and guiding her clients in a simple way to enable changes to occur. Style is laid back and approachable, and she has deep experience in the field of addiction and recovery, which she uses that experience to skillfully employ evidence-based therapies in a way that feels like a comfortable conversation. So Annika holds a bachelor's degree from University of Michigan and a master's from Regis University here in Denver. So Annika, tell us more about what you do and how you do it. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I will Go ahead and share my screen. Okay.
You're on. Okay.
Great. So again, my name is Annika and I'm with Hope for Tomorrow Counseling. I'm a mental health therapist and I specialize in life transitions. And I'm here today to talk to you about having the hard conversations with the older adult in your life. Oh man, any idea how to move the screen? There we go. So I'll be talking today about a program that I offer that supports individuals and families through their journeys in later life. We will also go over some practical tips and strategies you can use to get these hard conversations started with your loved one today. Many people are curious what to say and when to say it, so I will go over that as well. I am the owner of Hope for Tomorrow Counseling, and it was established in 2012. My personal and professional journeys have given me opportunities to learn and specialize in a wide variety of areas that come together really well in what I offer to older adults. My work experience has led me to work with trauma, addictions, family dynamics, and grief, and the majority of settings I was in was short-term. I have seen that pulling from all of these areas allows me to quickly connect with families and help them sort through the big feelings that are coming up in order to help guide them on the path forward. Using short-term solution-focused therapy allows me to help the family identify what the problem is, explore what the desired solution will be, and find a way to work together to get there. In this work, I don't need a whole lot of backstory, and this isn't the kind of therapy that will last forever or make you talk about all of your old stuff. These are some of the reasons I was drawn to this specific area of work. Watching this play out in my own family, I saw the need to be an advocate for the older adult and also give voice to the feelings on both sides. The role reversal and family dynamics that come up and shift around as we age can be really hard to navigate. I have seen the adult child want to help their aging parent, and the parent sees this as their freedoms being taken away. This can lead to further misunderstandings, especially if there are already difficult family dynamics at play. In most life transitions, there is grief, and it is often unspoken, or we try really hard to avoid it. With the transitions that occur as we age, it is helpful to identify, speak, and honor the grief that comes up so the older adult can age with dignity and grace. One of the main things I offer in therapy is to be a container. If you think about a family, an individual, or even just a situation that is like this first picture of a child holding crayons, it feels messy, chaotic, you can't hold it all together. In therapy, we work together to put the crayons down, sort them out, and then put them in a container so you can focus on the goal in front of you and not holding all the crayons all at once. By doing this, we can identify what each crayon represents or means to you and give it space so you can put it down for a moment. Thinking of times when life has been a bit much, we tend to hold on to things extra tight because it feels like we are in control. But in reality, we look like the first kid with the messy pile of crayons, and we would have a hard time handing out a specific color if someone asked for it. So in therapy, this idea of being a big container to hold all of the things can help take some of the load off and release a bit of the tension caused by holding on too tight. There can be lots of containers if needed. So I can metaphorically hold the dynamics of the strained relationship between adult siblings, while also holding the grief and frustration mom or dad have around needing more support. The idea is that by containing all of the outside factors, we can clearly focus on the task at hand, which is to support our older adult. As Amy mentioned, therapy can be beneficial to anyone. Getting support through hard conversations can be particularly helpful in families and couples that are struggling to find a way forward. In my work, I see individuals, so either the adult child or the aging parent. Sometimes I bring them together and work with them as a family, and other times I can bring in the younger generation if needed to provide full spectrum services to the sandwich generation. For couples, I've worked with older adults that are seeing a need for more support for their partner and are needing help having that conversation in a loving way. The program I offer is a short-term package that aims to identify the primary goal and allows everyone to voice feelings and concerns so we can create a plan to move forward that feels good for everyone. I typically meet with the adult children first to gather information, and then with the parent to identify any sticking points that have been coming up. Then we all meet together where I utilize my containers, and we explore what the primary goals are and what everyone hopes to change. Depending on the package, there are different follow-up meetings scheduled, as well as the opportunity for check-in phone calls to work through issues that may arise. I also provide a workbook and journal to help guide some of these hard conversations between the meetings so the family can get the most out of our time together. There's several benefits to getting outside help, especially in these situations. As with many things in life, there isn't a manual or instruction guide to aging, and a lot of the issues that come up are uncomfortable and hard to deal with. Having an outside support person come in and help allows the opportunity to see what has been causing the stuck points in conversations and more effectively pull apart the emotions from the logistics. Family dynamics can often muddy the waters, and as an outsider, I'm not impacted by them in the same way. So if the message is that there are concerns for mom's safety, the adult child might struggle with expressing these out of fear of hurting mom's feelings. As an outsider, I don't have the same pull, and I can name these concerns in a more matter-of-fact style that will help open up the conversation once the issue has been identified and named. Another benefit is keeping the focus on the aging loved one. When difficult topics are brought up, oftentimes it can become a back and forth exchange, or one side will just shut down. Having a third party present keeps the conversation focused and moving forward so everyone feels heard and progress on the goal can be achieved. So when should you have this talk with your aging loved one? The short answer is that if you're thinking about it, you should talk about it and bring it up in small doses and bring it up often. There isn't a perfect time or a perfect combination of words that will make this any easier. Most of us don't want to talk about getting old, needing help, or dying, but all of these things are happening whether we talk about them or not. In my experience, the first conversation is the hardest because it brings the scary words into the room. Your loved one might shut down or not have much to say because they don't want to talk about it either, but it is still helpful to have these discussions before it becomes a crisis. Each time you have this discussion with your aging adult, it will become a little less uncomfortable, and focusing on the goal at hand, supporting the loved one, will become a little more clear. Some suggestions are bringing up topics during mundane, comfortable activities, like driving, having coffee or a meal, or when helping your loved one with a task. It doesn't need to be scheduled or planned, and the more casual it can be, the easier it can be to digest. Oh. What happened? Okay. Some important things to consider are your own expectations for the conversation and noticing the feelings that are coming up for you in the moment. If you expect your loved one to be open and receptive and they become closed off and defensive, you will likely react in a way that won't be helpful to the dialogue. So go in knowing that it will probably be hard and you will probably stumble on the words, but this is important to talk about this. Being aware of your own feelings in the moment is helpful, and that it keeps the focus on your loved one. So when you notice that you are having a reaction to what is happening, take a breath or a pause, and remember that this is hard work. Using I statements is one of the best ways to communicate our feelings effectively, so starting with that can be helpful. Explore the message you are wanting to convey, and then identify what that feeling is for you and start there. For example, if I see that my loved one is having a hard time getting around the house, I could say, "Sometimes I worry about these stairs in the house, and I wonder what would happen if you fell." There doesn't need to be a question or advice. It can just be a statement of concern that gets the conversation started. I encourage those of you that have an older adult in your life to explore something you have been worried or concerned about and bring up the topic with them today. If you need to brainstorm or work through the words you would like to say, send me an email and I'd be happy to workshop some ideas with you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Annika. It was very well done. And I have questions, but first I'm going to ask other people if they have questions. So does anyone else on the call have any questions for Annika? Okay. So my questions started with, what do the adult children typically come to you first before the older adult gets engaged in your therapy? That's one question.
Typically, yes. Typically, it starts with the adult child. And what I've been noticing is actually, because I support a lot of other workers in the senior world. And so realtors, community living, assisted living locators. And so when the adult children is looking for services for their parents, and then there's kind of this stuck point of, I've found help for mom. Now I'm offering it to mom. Mom kind of freaks out, doesn't know what to do. And then that's kind of where I come in and kind of help facilitate those conversations.
And so what if mom says, I don't want to talk to this person, you in this case, what happens next?
One of the things that I like to share for the older adult is that yes, I'm a therapist and yes, it's therapy, but I'm not approaching this as therapy. My approach is to advocate for both sides. And so I welcome when people don't want to talk to me. My experience in the addictions world has worked with a lot of resistance, and approaching it in a way of, I just want to know where mom's coming from and I want to help her voice be heard. And I often will kind of figure out why she doesn't want to talk to me and use that as the motivation to talk to me.
So, and I know you must deal with a wide variety of issues, but are there some that are more prevalent than others you could talk about?
Grief is probably the biggest one that comes up. And it's not so much grief around a death loss, but grief around loss around mobility, freedoms, independence, their house, their stuff. And being able to acknowledge and honor letting go of life as we age has been a really important piece of my work.
Letting go of life as we age. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so one of the things we talked about beforehand was mental health and physical health. And so letting go of life, physical mobility is one of the things that is often the easiest for us to see go. And so when there isn't any sort of like physical ailments of having a hip replacement and it not going so well, or having rheumatoid arthritis, or whatever it might be, that you can't move as easy as you could before, it's about saying goodbye to what you used to be and looking at how you can continue to live a good quality of life with what you can do.
So it's more, I guess, to paraphrase that, it's learning to accept where you are in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Have you had conversations that are specifically around the driving issue? Have you been involved in
That is one that comes up a lot, and it's a hard question for me because I don't have an answer. And I think any of us in this situation want there to be an expert that says, yes, this is going to make it easy. Your parents are going to be totally okay with giving up their right to drive. And it is tricky and extremely individualized. From my experiences, having an outside professional like a medical doctor make the call and help encourage seems to make it a little easier, but it's a very difficult topic to go through.
Yeah, I only asked because I had that conversation with my mother and with my dad too. It's ridiculous, and neither one of them very well at all. So I get it. So another one that's been on my mind too is helping the caregiver of a person who has dementia and or Alzheimer's, to deal, how they can better deal with that situation other than just being upset because the person is constantly repeating themselves or constantly asking the same question. So can you talk a little bit about that? How do you deal with that one?
That is another tricky one. And a lot of it is the idea of grieving the loss of the person that they used to be. When we look at older adults, dementia, Alzheimer's, some of the frustrating things are actually very similar to what it's like to deal with a toddler. A toddler asking why a million times a day is very frustrating and very hard. But because the toddler is at the beginning of his very long journey, we give more patience, more grace, and we're able to answer the question without taking it so personal. But when it is our loved one and we have had shared experience of a grown, functioning, engaging adult, and now they're asking why a million times, it's frustrating and saddening and maddening. And so we have to find a space to put those big feelings so that I can continue to engage with the person that's still in front of me.
Yeah. Well, thanks for what you're doing there. That's a tough one, I know. So I know you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I'd like for you to maybe emphasize it a little stronger, and that is, the why of why you're doing this. I mean, you mentioned earlier that you had been involved with addiction counseling, and this is, I'm sure there are similarities, but this is different. And so, so what led you here?
My grandmother had dementia when she died, and watching my mom and her siblings go through that process in not the best way really made me see that I wanted to help do it different. My mom and I have a really great relationship, and so her and I have been very proactive in talking about what is it going to be like for her when she gets there, how are we going to handle it different, how can we make it better. And so I've seen with her, and then through working with other people in my practice and in the community, that this isn't a thing we talk about. Mental health has been stigmatized, but aging and dying has its own stigma that we don't talk about, and it's awkward to ask for help. And so for me to be able to approach it in a way that if I can educate people and help them see what resources are available, that we could do it different, that's really my goal.
So in a way, in some ways, then you're talking about, if you can help prepare people for what might be coming, and that could be with the older adult or with the adult children, so that when one of those situations actually does arise, there's some preparation that's been done, and they're more ready to deal with it.
Right. When we wait until there's a crisis, typically good decisions don't come out of that in any kind of situation. But the more we can prepare, the better we are aware of what our options are.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of gets back to, why we're doing what we're doing too. It's like, because we know, and and Amy knows that some people will do the preparation work, but most people wait until it happens. And then it's like, okay, now I have to do something, and what do I do? So I'm sure you get a few of those frantic calls that, yeah.
It definitely
Okay.
is a culture shift that is, I'm hoping, happening with the services that are out there. I think it's becoming at least a name that's out there. Now we just have to help change the narrative and get the word out there.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Do we have any other questions for Annika or for Amy? From anybody? And Amy and Annika, do you have any questions for our audience? Is there anything you'd like to ask folks, including Barbara and me, you know, whatever? I mean, if not, that's fine, but I just thought I'd ask. Amy, I see you're off mute, so maybe you have something.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on your question about, the incidence of mental health increasing during the pandemic. And I did find the article with the specific percentage. And yes, anxiety and depression worldwide increased by 25% during the pandemic, and especially for women and young people. So I did post the link to that article in the chat. And yeah, I think that's something that we'll be dealing with the aftermath for long to come. And yeah, so don't be shy. You're not alone. If you're having challenges, you are not alone. In mental health first aid, we talk about 50% of adults will experience a mental health condition in their lifetime. So it's a common experience, and there are resources to help. So don't hesitate to reach out. That's what we're here for.
I think that's a good reminder for all of us. Thank you. So 25% is that's quite significant. So, and I also heard recently that, we had a webinar not too long ago on Alzheimer's research. And there's some concern on the part of the medical community that people who have had COVID may have lingering physical effects as well, and as well as effects on their brain that may not show up for a very long time. So, are you familiar with that situation too? Would either of you like to address that?
So I used to work for the Alzheimer's Association, so I know them well. And yeah, I mean, that's, we talked a little bit about the relationship between physical health and mental health. And that is one thing that anytime you have anything going untreated, it's likely to produce worse outcomes down the road. So untreated depression, untreated diabetes, untreated, anxiety, those all tend to lead to worse health outcomes. And I think there's a lot to be seen about COVID. I know when I had COVID, the brain fog was intense. And so it wouldn't surprise me that there would be some lingering cognitive effects after the fact. But it's why, early intervention and treating things and not leaving them to go untreated. Another one is hearing loss. Untreated hearing loss leads to cognitive decline more often than not. Untreated insomnia, untreated sleep apnea. So it's really important, again, that we look at the whole health of the person, because they're all interacted. We're all in one body, and they all have, impacts on one another. So if you're noticing something, if you're struggling with something, it's just so important to reach out.
Good advice.
I have a question.
Okay. Yes, question.
So just from my own experience, I know that it's kind of a almost like an interview process, finding a therapist that matches who you are as a person and your style of communication and things like that, and trying to recommend therapy or counseling or services to someone who's resistant to therapy is a daunting process. Is there any, just open question to Annika or Amy, is there any advice on how to expedite that process, ways to work around it? Like, are there resources to find information on the type of therapist you are before you even go to that person, so that you can kind of avoid putting someone through the ringer when they're already not even wanting to be there in the first place?
Annika, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure she was done. Thank you. So I offer 15-minute phone consultations, video consultations, in person, if that helps. But I think for a lot of people, again, just like having that first conversation of and acknowledging that it's okay that you don't want to talk about this, but really figuring out, how did they get to that in the first place? So an example, if I'm working with the adult child and the parent is resistant, talking to parent and saying, why do you suppose kiddo wants you to talk to me? And figuring that out and reaching through that way. But a lot of times it's just making that first contact eases the tension quite a bit. One of my favorite resources is psychologytoday.com. It is a huge directory of therapists. It's very much like a dating profile, but it gives us your bio, what your background is, what your website is, so you can do a lot of research on your own that way, and kind of poke through and see before you actually talk to the therapist. But I highly recommend people having some sort of consultation with the person to see if they are a good personality fit.
Yeah, I would second all of that. And I would also share, with the way we've set up Senior Reach, it's really meant to address that as well. When we call, we don't say, I hear you need therapy and, boy, we're going to come out and fix everything. It's much more of, I hear you've got a lot going on, you might be looking for a little extra support. Could we come out and just visit and see if our program might be able to help support you? We may not even use the word therapy right away if the person's really resistant, but it's about creating that connection. And then our first visit is always covered by a grant. So there's never any charge or insurance or paperwork. It's strictly just an engagement session to see if it's a right fit and to see if they want us to come back. So a lot of private practice therapists do that as well. And I always encourage people, if a therapist doesn't feel like a right fit for you, it might take 2-3 sessions to kind of get a real feel of how you're going to work together. But if it's not a good fit, it's totally okay to say, this isn't a great fit for me. Do you have any referrals? I would say also if a peer can suggest someone, so maybe they know someone who's been to therapy and could they see who they went to? They seem to like them. Whether that's for yourself or for a loved one, having a personal recommendation, I think, is always helpful too.
Awesome.
You just said something that triggered a thought, Amy, and that is on the Senior Reach program. So when someone calls in to say, hey, my neighbor next door needs some help, did that person remain anonymous? How does that work?
They can. We like to be able to say, so and so suggested I give you a call, just so people don't think we're scammers. I mean, sometimes it's too good to be true. We'll come out and there's no cost. And a lot of older adults, thankfully, are aware of potential scams. But again, when it's too easy in some ways, we've tried to make it so easy to access that sometimes it actually makes people suspicious. So if we can say so-and-so referred us, we prefer that. But if they really want to remain anonymous, that's okay by us too. We'll still reach out.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments before we sign off? No? Well, thank you, Amy. Thank you, Annika, and thanks all of you who attended today. And we very much appreciate this. This is great information, and I'm so glad we did this. So thank you. Have a nice afternoon, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.